Welcome to Agora by Give Something Back to Berlin. In this podcast series, we'll be finding out how migration has changed our urban landscape and exchange ideas with those who are making a difference. Join us while we tackle issues ranging from human rights and diversity to migrant identity and belonging.
Hello and welcome to Agora. Today I am with Marie and Gaby, who are actually the co-hosts of Agora podcast and usually sit in my chair. And today I will interview them on behalf of Agora team. So Gaby, you come from the UK and actually trained as a psychologist. But you actually ended up in Berlin's creative scene and also interested in music. How did that happen?
It's a very good question. So yeah, I studied psychology at university, and I've always had an interest in like social work, and I've volunteered a lot since I was at university. And when I moved to Berlin, I was just interested in getting involved in something more creative because I love painting, and wanted to explore that possibility here. And I felt like Berlin is a great place to be creative. So I started working in an art gallery and quickly realized that the art world wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I started volunteering again at a refugee center. And that sort of led me down this path of doing workshops, music workshops, then I was sort of combining the social stuff with more creative musical stuff. So that was the progression. But always have this social thing in mind, and always want to work with people and help bring the best out of people through different creative means.
That sounds like actually you found your passion.
Yes.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And as I understand, Give Something Back to Berlin also plays a role in this. And you have joined to Give Something Back to Berlin's community already a while ago. And how did that happen?
So actually, when I was running these music workshops with refugees, I was looking for a space where we could do the workshops more regularly, because we were working with a youth centre and it was quite difficult to set up the equipment there. And I found out about Give Something Back to Berlin, and also met Ben Osborne, who was the co-founder of the Open Music Lab. And we started using one of the rooms here at Give Something Back to Berlin. Lucy was helping us with that, and we were sharing like all the equipment, and that's how I got involved actually. And then I just saw all the amazing work that was going on, and I wanted to be part of it all.
And when was that?
That was, I guess, like 5 years ago now, okay. So quite a while, yeah.
Okay, lovely. Yeah. And you, as I said, you have been also co-hosting this podcast actually. And how did you end up with hosting this workshop, this podcast? Yeah. And how did your experience go with it?
Yeah, so actually it's something I never imagined doing. I'm actually quite a shy, nervous person, particularly when you press record or you turn the camera on. I never imagined that I would do something like this, but the opportunity came about, and I thought it was a really wonderful chance to be able to talk to other people in the field that were, doing similar work to what Give Something Back to Berlin is offering. And I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to do something that makes me feel quite uncomfortable. And in that process, I learned a lot. And I think it was really important to connect to different organizations in Berlin that are doing sort of similar stuff. I think I grew a lot in that, and I definitely feel more comfortable with the idea of interviewing people. So I think it's been a great experience for myself.
Great. And as you have asked to other guests, we have a signature question for this podcast. And I'm going to ask that to you. So what does giving back mean to you?
Yes, so I wish I'd had a bit more time to think about that, but honestly, for me, I think giving back is about sharing your experience, whether that's knowledge, whether that's something that you've, picked up, life experience, and sharing that knowledge with people. So it's like this exchange, and through that process, I feel like people then also can share that, and I feel like giving back is a sharing process actually, and I see it a lot at Give Something Back to Berlin. So you have people that attend some of the activities, but then they also end up hosting some of the activities. So it's this sort of circular thing. When you give something, people take that, but then they also give back. So I think it's really powerful to have that as an idea, behind an organization.
That's such a nice answer. Thank you. And let's listen from Marie. Marie, you have a background in media and history, and actually you also work for one of the most popular morning shows in German national channel SAT1. And how has been your experience with your work and also with your background?
So I actually first got into TV when I did a semester abroad in Colombia. So for me, it's always been a little bit about being abroad, living abroad, but also working in media. And I've always been interested in languages and in words. That what got me first interested in journalism in the first place. And then also just always have been interested in people and their stories. So I think kind of making that bridge from working in media, working also abroad in media with different cultures, different languages, and then listening to people's stories from all over the place, that to me kind of was a natural progression also to coming here and doing this podcast, I suppose.
And you also have actually an extensive experience in Latin America. And you are also co-hosting Agora podcast. And how did these interests come together?
So I think it's, as I was just saying, I lived a year in Costa Rica when I was in high school. Then I did my semester in Colombia when I was in university. And naturally, my circle back in Berlin here also extended always into these Latino communities. And Gaby and I also know each other from Berlin and have been friends even before we met here and co-hosted Agora together. So this is how I first got introduced to the idea of potentially joining Agora team. And I think, as I was saying, it's kind of full circle in that sense that I've been in a sort of international group of friends and then coming to Agora and expanding on that. I think this is how it all came about for me.
So while actually hosting Agora podcast, you have interacted many of the Give Something Back to Berlin community members. How was this experience for you? What did you learn from them? Did you find something interesting about our community?
So I mentioned before, I've always been interested in people's stories, and I think I view my job also as giving a platform to people and their stories. So with Agora, it has been especially nice because I got to speak to people who I can feel have a real passion for things. They volunteer oftentimes also for these projects, and it's just nice to speak to someone who's actually inspired by what they do, and it kind of inspires you back, and it gives us, I think we often spoke about after the interviews also how nice it was to chat to these people, that it's not just me talking to someone, but for everyone who's also there, feeling that sense of someone's there that wants to do something and that wants to help other people or wants to exchange something or give something back or give something further on, and that to me was actually kind of the nicest part of it, because I love learning about the projects and what people are doing in particular, but also just that feeling of community and that feeling of connectedness. I think that's my biggest takeaway from the podcast.
That sounds amazing. So you are interested in connections, connecting with people, you're interested in stories, and you're interested also in migration. What does cultural integration mean to you then? And what would you suggest to local Berliners who would like to play an active role in cultural integration processes?
I mean, I think from what I was telling you about my personal history, living abroad also and interacting with people from different places, from different cultures, I think it opens your horizon in a way that is, and not to judge, but almost unimaginable for people who haven't had that experience. You sometimes, like when I first got to Costa Rica, you can't almost fathom like all the different nuances of like small things in cultural matters, but also in ways how you express yourself, that once you learn them and once you understand it, it's like it makes your mind so much more wide, and not in a sense that like, oh, my mind is now so expanded, but it's just a natural progress that comes along with these things. And I feel like if you're able to experience these differences and then hopefully take away the best from them and like form something new through it, then that's actually so enriching just to be able to live that. So I think what I would suggest to Berliners in general, I mean, Berlin is such an international city. There are people from so many different places, and you can take so much away from it. And there's like such a rich sea of like of potential experiences, of potential exchanges, of new ideas that you can have through them. And I would say just get in touch, just like open yourself up, have conversations. If you want to volunteer and like maybe do something more, just go for it and do it. I think there's sometimes maybe a little bit of a natural barrier where you maybe don't dare to try it, or maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe what if I can't interact the way I want to. But I think especially when you have that experience of coming to a place and maybe not speaking the language even, then you get stripped away of these like weird fears and shames, and when you overcome them, there's so much that you can actually take away from it, that I would really just suggest to go for it and do it.
Yeah, these are some of the great suggestions that you can give to Berliners. And us as migrants, we also call ourselves Berliners, as we have established ourselves here.
I mean, I'm sorry but like, just look at me and Gaby, like, this is how we also met, and we come from 2 different countries, and we just like, once we met and we exchanged ideas and we talked about different things, and then Agora came up, and now we're here together. So This is what I mean by like how much can come out of these connections.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so I would like add to what you're saying, and yeah, I think Berlin is such an interesting city because there are people from all different walks of life, but it is quite easy to stay in your circle, but you have to be quite open and see that there are other things going on. And I think an organization like Give Something Back to Berlin really provides a space where you can meet people from so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds. And that is such an inspirational place to be, actually. I feel like I'm constantly learning, trying new food, listening to music from different parts of the world. And for me, that is super special. And I think there aren't that many spaces like that in Berlin that really celebrates this diversity and this culture from different parts of the world. And I think that's something that is quite unique to the organization.
That's true. Actually, I have a similar impression of Give Something Back to Berlin, that even though you can meet so many people from around the world in Berlin, Give Something Back to Berlin provides something very unique, which is probably I can describe as authentic connection. The authenticity that I have come across in my meetings, connections, just some events happening at Give Something Back to Berlin is something actually rare in the city.
And it's also a space where people are so warm and friendly. This is a word that I've used quite a lot, warm, because you really do. When you walk into the building, it makes you smile. You just instantly feel connected to people. And doing a great job.
Can I also talk? Can I also speak? And I think also maybe sometimes there's this fear of connecting to the things that we don't know, and this kind of hesitance about integration, but integration is not losing yourself to others. It's like more putting different elements into a box and like learning more. You're not giving anything away, but you're like getting more in the process. And I think this is something that we can experience very clearly here at this place also.
Yeah. And Marie, let's get back to you. So I'm going to ask you the same question that you have asked to our guests here in this podcast. What does giving back mean to you?
I think there's so many different nuances to this question. Of course, on the one side, there is once you've been to different places and you realize also the privilege that you've been having without having worked for it in any sense, and then wanting to give something back from this sort of riches that you just got in the first place. But also elaborating on what you said earlier, like you said, you made it a little bit of you give something back and then the other person gives something back. And to me, that's also a feeling that I have, but almost also that giving back is getting back something in the same moment already. So it's not a one-way street, like I give something away, but I get something while I give. So I think that to me is the most, what describes giving back the best, I guess.
Amazing. But giving back is an activist action for me. That you share something with others and make it collective.
Yeah, I agree.
So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you, Bethania, also joining us. So if you want to know more about Give Something Back to Berlin and Agora podcast, please check the episode's description. Thank you, and bye-bye.